Welcome to the Moonshot Podcast, the podcast where we explore business growth, inspire innovative marketing strategies, and explore the world of company culture. Now here are your hosts, serial entrepreneurs and best-selling authors, James Philip Arbuckle and Kane Carpenter.
The most exciting part of this particular episode was Chamath saying that, and I'm going to use my own words, but when the middle class has been shrinking, the news paints it as everyone's going broke, everyone's going lower middle or working class. And, you know, Chamath pointed out that I'm looking at, he's looking at a chart, probably the same Fed chart I looked at that showed, well, the top 1% is growing. And then that next like 12% grew a lot. Let's call that the upper middle class came. And the amount of wealth in that bucket was tremendous. And now, Kane, if the 1% is the 1% and the upper middle class grew, where'd those people come from?
Yeah, from the middle class.
They came from the middle class or below. So, and I've been saying that for years because I keep looking at this flipping chart, and you get in these arguments with people that are typically in their 20s, and they come out of college saying that capitalism sucks and everyone's doing worse. And I'm like, have you seen the amount of houses they built? Excuse me, that are like over $500,000. Who do you think's filling these houses?
Right.
More people getting education, tech jobs, finance jobs, crypto, all these things that have been going crazy. And what's a program manager making in tech, like $200,000 or something, Kane? It's nuts. And you look at, okay, more people are kind of climbing up. And it was like, man, it was really refreshing to hear Chamath say that, because I wrote about it on LinkedIn probably 5 or 6 years ago. You and I have done it on our old podcast. I've done it on my own podcast. And you'll get pushback from people that never went and looked at the data. It's just somewhere between college and the news. They believe that only the 1% are doing well and everybody else is hurting. And I think, you know, compared to when I was growing up in the 90s till now, I've never seen a time when there was more economic opportunity or upward mobility. Kane, I mean, you could be broke living where I grew up, and if you had a cell phone, you could create a YouTube channel and make $10,000 a month.
Right.
That didn't exist back then, man. I don't know. It was nice to see.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I guess to follow on that point, what did you think of when they were talking about how politics and your political affiliation affects the way that you look at the economy?
I didn't need to see the data to... I listened to it, but that's like, it wasn't a surprise. Many things on this episode weren't a surprise. But you look, if you talk to somebody on the left, the economy is booming. If I run into some MAGA people, the economy sucks. And that's been that way since, you know, probably the Clinton years. I've noticed it just depends on who you talk to. Obviously, it's worse today, Kane. Like, everything's so polarized now. I will say, from the people that say the economy is terrible right now, it's usually around inflation. They're not complaining about jobs because unemployment's low. It seems like the biggest complaint is like food prices, for example. I made the comment, I got bacon and eggs one day at the store, it's $20. But is that a bad economy? It's a component of it, right?
Yeah.
But I've been through bad economies, right? I've been through 3 recessions.
Right.
This isn't bad. But I wouldn't say it's good, because I'm always trying to look around corners, and I don't like the $1 trillion in debt we're sitting on. I don't like that car loans are at like 30-year highs on defaults. There's a lot of things I don't like right now. You are seeing layoffs. The news doesn't talk about it a whole lot. We know it because we have a business that works in the, layoff industry. So you see these like two tails. Like, one day came, the economy looks really good. The next day some bad news comes out, and 2 days later some good news comes out. But I don't know. Do you have enough data to say it's good or bad right now? To me, it's kind of just a whirlwind.
Well, we are hearing more and more about a soft landing, not really knowing what a soft landing should look like. So it does feel like that, where we're just kind of like landing a plane without really knowing where we're landing it.
I mean, soft landing is, am I jumping into the ball pit at Chuck E. Cheese? Or am I jumping on, like, am I landing on like a pillow top mattress? Like, if 2000 hates a hard landing, a soft landing can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah, right. Anything less than that. Yeah.
But I do think this speaks to kind of where we're at on everything political. It's one side says this, so the other side has to say, it's exhausting listening to these people. It's like whatever party's in, we just got to attack, right? It's this administration's in, so the economy's got to be bad. And then if that flips over, then they'll switch. And again, I didn't need to listen to this to know that. I think you see it every day in life. Particularly people that are kind of dug in on one side. It's everyone's got their thing, and no matter whether it's right or wrong, if the other team's doing it, they got to hate it. And that's just how it goes.
So I've been thinking about that lately. I'm working on a theory, my own little theory in my head, but the data that I think it was JCal showed around how polarized we are with the way that we look at the economy. It's I guess it's not uniquely U.S. experience, but it's definitely like heightened here in the U.S. because it looks like the rest of the world where you can kind of both sides will see the economy as it is almost. And I've been thinking, like, is that a function of us here almost gamifying everything, or is it we are such a sports heavy society here? I mean, I guess like Europe is pretty sports heavy. You think about soccer and stuff, but we, between the basketball, the hockey, the football, the baseball, and just the fact that you're taught at B school like to gamify everything to keep engagement up. Like, we live in a society that's uniquely polarized just in general, and so we pick sides. That's what we do, and it just bleeds into our politics. Or is it the politics that bleeds the other way around? I don't know yet.
I mean, you know me. I feel like politics is this infectious disease that just kills everything along its path. And I do like your theory. I've never thought about that. I've been reducing everything to politics because I can't seem to find the answer that tells me that's not what's happening. It's I'm gonna take it up this side, and I'm gonna hate everything the other side does. And I can when I'm if I'm bored and I'm out somewhere and you're having a drink, if you really want to piss people off, yeah, you play this game, and I say just one thing, and they're like, all right, and I'm like, especially if I know which way they are. Like, so if they're Republican, I'm like, tell me one good thing Bill Clinton did. Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times people won't do that. So you can look at any president in history, whether you were on their side or not. You can't tell me that every single thing they did is bad.
Right.
And trying to get someone to admit that, maybe someone that's not on a party they voted for did something, they can't do it. Flip side, if someone's, someone like was really dug in Democrat, like, tell me one good thing that like Bush did. And they can't. And it doesn't matter what side you're on. And I think that's kind of the problem where we stand, is that it really is gangs. We're gang colors, one red, one blue.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can't even open our minds and get out our own way. Like, this is why we never solve anything. Like, you could literally be looking at someone that's on the other team and say, you ever see, like, in sportsmanship, Kane, like, the other team makes a big play and, like, the guy on the other team, like, claps for him, like, damn, that was good. Like, the sportsmanship of it. You don't see, there's no sportsmanship in politics. It's gang warfare. And
it's so true.
And you look at the result, right? It's not making this country a better place.
And we'll dive into how, like, the colleges and stuff, but I had a conversation the other night with someone, and it's the idea that, so politics is one thing, but it bleeds into the way I think young people look at underdog and favorite. in almost anything. And I think that leads into what we're seeing with some of the conflicts around the world, where it doesn't matter what the conflict is. If there's an underdog and if there's a favorite, everybody's going to side with the underdog,
Did someone
regardless of what's happening.
I think someone mentioned that on the All-In podcast too.
Maybe.
That's why they saw the Palestinians as the underdog, or the God, was that J. Cal? Man, I'm not sure. Someone, I felt like I heard it on All-In. One of them might have said something similar. That now they looked at the Palestinians as the oppressed and Israelis as the oppressors. So you automatically have to take a side. And which I'm trying to replay that conversation in my head. It's you know what? Part of it, something else Zach said was, I was trying to formulate like what the hell's going on, like looking at what's there's so many moving pieces to this thing, and Sachs was talking about that the Jews often aligned with the liberals, which I didn't really know that. I mean, I don't think I knew many that were like Republicans, but whatever, left leaning. And he's like, well, we were aligned, and then all of a sudden, like the liberals kind of turned on them, and that's when you saw a lot of the marching going on for Palestine. And it's like, so I think Sachs was saying something along the lines of, well, now they feel like they don't have a home, so is that gonna push the Jews to go vote Republican now? Because like, wait a minute, we were on the same team, right? We believed in quite a few progressive ideas, and this is kind of where we stood, and then all of a sudden you're against us. So to hear Sachs say that, it's like, well, is that going to push more? Do you think that would have any effect on election? I guess is what I'm asking. Like there's a fracture amongst that group that kind of got exposed when this war started.
Interesting. That's a really interesting idea. Because then it makes you think, like, was it actually built on anything, or was there any sort of foundation for what that was?
See, I don't know. This isn't something I study every day, but I did find it interesting. I mean, what's going on right now?
Yeah.
And I told you before, I'm looking through Reddit threads and blog posts and New York Times. I'm looking at all this stuff, trying to figure out, take all these little pieces and put it together. Like something feels off, because it seems like, weren't you all on the same team? And all of a sudden there was a fracture. And it's like, okay, maybe you don't have my back.
Right.
So, they hear Sachs say that, and then it's like, well, will there be election ramifications from what happened since October? Does that start to push, or does that make people start questioning, like, what are we doing? But that goes back to it. When you're on one side, you get this basket of things you have to be down for. But I think this is one of those times when, some people opted out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, I mean, there's some good stuff on this episode.
Oh yeah, this was one of my favorites.
I've not like processed this whole thing yet. It's because it's you're fighting the news, and I'll go to Reddit, which I know is not where you go to get the best information. I'm looking for opinions and ideas of other people around the world, because I can't open up CNN and Fox News and get a clear one either. But you can see, like, man, there's a lot of turmoil going on in this world. And then we saw the elite colleges on TV. So how'd that make you feel? Feel. What did you observe?
I mean, obviously, there's like a disappointment. I think the guys on the podcast made a really good point, like comparing it to like if it would have been, if the questions had been not an anti-Semitism thing and more like a race or like a color thing, like would they have answered it the same way? And I absolutely think that that's probably not the case. It's just a really funny place to be. I since then the UPenn presidents lost their job and all this stuff, and I think that's probably the right play, right? Like I think that was what needed to happen based on what we saw. But I don't know. What do you think, Jay?
Again, I didn't need to watch it. There was no surprises. Like, you saw three very smug people up there that were kind of condescending, that really didn't want to answer any questions. And as you're watching it live, well, I didn't watch it live, but I did catch it on flipping through the TV there. And I'm like, man, this is, in 24 hours, this is not going to go well.
Hmm.
And it didn't take that long, Kane, because probably within a couple hours, social media was already starting to like fill up with comments. And I'm like, but Kane, I'm not surprised, because if you see what the issues that are going on with the kids coming out of college and how they think, what their focuses are, you can't look at this and say, well, it doesn't start at the top of these universities. This stuff trickles all the way down. And there was warning signs, probably 20 years ago. I think like Seinfeld, and I think even Chris Rock and people were saying they were never going to play college campuses again because of the way the students were and all the politically, all the PC stuff. Now, Kane, that was 2 decades ago or longer. They saw red flags 20 years ago. And now, these people are now 40 years old, so they're now teachers and raising kids. And you think about how that stuff gets compounded. Every generation gets more of this stuff kind of pushed down their throats. And so I really wasn't surprised by what I saw. And because if you're out in the world every day and you see what the average new grad looks like, it's like, well, it's coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was just unfortunate. It's just unfortunate.
Well, so before you dive into that a little bit more, I saw like a talking head on, I forget what news channel the other day, but I think they summed up the way I felt when I was watching it, which was they were disappointed that the presidents were giving like legalistic answers to moralistic questions. So that's probably exactly how I felt about it, which is like it's really disappointing when you want to get the genuine response from somebody and they give you just like crap, legal crap.
I mean, the legal crap still got him fired, or one of them, anyways.
And I think that might be a shift in that might be like a shift that's necessary. Like you can't always hide behind this like. I'm not going to go as far as to say there are right and wrongs in these kind of situations, because like there are two sides, but you can't always hide behind just being like doing the PC thing, right? Like so there's two sides that are really hurting here, and they don't want to hear the president or the leader of their organization like just say nothing.
I mean, obviously they were prepped extensively by lawyers.
Here to refund.
No doubt. It makes you wonder, like, maybe where they set up, like, did they want to clean house at the top of the administration, and were they set up? Because it's like, man, you were prepped by probably some of the best lawyers in the world, and this is what you got.
Yeah.
I think what America just wanted to hear was, hey, what went on wasn't right, and we're gonna fix it. I think that's what you had to say.
Yeah.
But you couldn't say that. It's almost like the people who just can't say they're sorry.
Yeah.
I'm obviously not a religious person, but there's like an old Bible saying that, pride comes before the fall or something like that. It's, man, you just had to say that we too didn't like what was happening, and we're working extensively to try to change this and do something about it. That would have shut down the person questioning them.
Right.
But you didn't. Because, if it was any other group, period, it's like they would do something about it. So why not this one? I don't.
Yeah.
I don't understand, man. It's longer ramifications, though. It's like, do people start? Well, you saw the backlash. Companies started saying, "I don't want to hire people from Harvard now." Like, what does that have? Does it end up costing the university something? I don't know. But you start looking at it, we probably just have a much larger issue with our entire educational system than we really want to talk about it or deal with. And maybe this was, I think we already knew some stuff was going on, free speech on campus, all that stuff. But was this like the real public eye opener to, man, maybe we really do have a problem that needs a change? Because these are the leaders, right? These are the people at the top. Does
Yeah,
culture not start at the top?
correct.
So, man, I tell you, just when you think the news cycle's ending, there's something new coming up.
It's true. It's true.
What else we got here?
Well, so we've got a bunch of talking points, but I think the interesting one that to really dive into is the conversation that the guys went on after they announced, or Friedberg announced that he was going to be the CEO of one of his companies, because it's something that we talk about a lot, and like the idea that, because they were saying that, or Chamath was saying that there's a lot, he sees a lot of 4 person teams that are just act like super talented people that found somebody to give them money, and now they've got a startup that's just kind of doing nothing when they do a far better job internally at a different company, at a proper not a proper company, at a company that's doing well.
A few people were saying that, and I think Chamath was also saying that he was really surprised at how I'm ad-libbing. Some of these companies are getting by with these like mediocre teams, like
Yes.
like kind of like thin management. I don't know what words he used, and I'm not surprised by that because I see it every day. And we ran out of. It's back to that thing like there's one LeBron, and then you got, there's maybe 25 more players in the NBA that are really good, and then you have like 400 other guys that are running around the court. And how do you run a company with the 400 people that are just running around the court? And I think we just have too many startups. Like everything's really disjointed. We have so many startups, man, and half of it's like shit we don't need.
Yeah.
But it's sucking up resources. Can you apply like Tragedy of the Commons to the workforce? It's so spread out, and to the point to where you can't get enough of the good people together to make something really succeed anymore. I guess people, they're trying, or they throw more money at it. But without the people, how much money are you blowing because of the inefficiencies of not having the right team?
Yeah.
That was an interesting conversation, although not surprising.
Right. Yeah, nothing was that surprising. They had a little chat about the Figma Adobe deal. And what'd you think of that?
Didn't really blow my hair back, and that's knowing that I don't even have hair. So I get it, I guess. Maybe, I mean, was there something bigger there than I missed? Like, it was something I missed.
So the main thing that I think they were talking about was how there's like 3 regulatory bodies, right? And it's the UK that's holding it up. It's the harshest one, yet it's the smallest one. We've had these conversations in the past where we talk about expansion, and like, I half jokingly pushed always to see, hey, can we open London? But if the UK is the one place that's so difficult when you get a deal done to get it through, then it becomes, let's not even try to open a UK thing anymore. So let's avoid that regulation. So are they shooting themselves in the foot by being such sticklers for this stuff?
I don't know much about the UK. I remember, we both know somebody that's from over there. Like, learning about some of the things they do with the government, it's the United States don't look so bad.
Right.
You can see where doing business there, if it's that great of a pain in the ass, and it's almost not worth, unless it's really big, it's not worth it. And you think about where they're coming off of Brexit and everything. Ireland boomed. They had low taxes. It was easy to do business-ish. And you look at, go set up shop in London and see the laws, the regulations, the oversight. Isn't it a lot of Europe though? Like I read an article once talking about this is why becoming an entrepreneur in Europe's so difficult, right? They make it difficult. Like over here, I can send $10 into the county and get a DBA, and I'm off to business, right? It's
right.
Man, there's a lesson there somewhere. Where I make shit easy.
True. They also talked a little bit about Gemini, That's Google's new AI product, which I think, day of launch, I was excited. I sent you some stuff, but since then, you've sent me some stuff that's saying that some of it could be faked. So I don't know how I feel about it all now.
I've not followed up on that. That was just one news article.
Mm.
Did you see anything else where people were
No.
saying it was?
No, that was the only thing I saw. Yeah.
Like, was it so good that it had to be faked?
It wasn't even that good.
It's I was reading something like people think like ChatGPT 5 is going to come out and the world's going to end, and ChatGPT 5 will be better, but to think that it's going to like solve all the world's problems in its next evolution, like that's not going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if. I mean, I don't know. It's possible to fake anything, I guess. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, this is just, to me, like it's an example of like there's a small group of people that influence what gets covered in the media. There's probably a smaller percentage of the population that actually follows the media. Like we look at our companies, James, and you think, well, how many people actually pay attention to ChatGPT and even use it? Right? It's a tiny percentage. So to your point, I mean, people saying that the next thing that OpenAI puts out is going to change the world. It just won't. Right? There's so few people that are using this stuff.
I mean, it's going to keep getting better, and I'm going to have to go look to see if the Google thing was really faked or. I mean, the stock was crashing. Do you think that was a piece of news for like short sellers, or was it stock tanking because it was true? I felt like the stock was down that day, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, you might be right. Hey, we just had our holiday party, and I saw a bunch of people do VR. VR is not changing anything. Oh, goodness.
It was funny though.
It was funny. Yeah, it was definitely funny. It's not changing nothing in the world at the moment.
It might change where you got people just sitting in the house all day playing video games and ordering Grubhub and assuming they can find some money somewhere to pay for all this shit. But
that's true.
That's about where it's going. Well, lastly, what was it? The credit card debt was high, if I recall.
Yeah. So I mean, that was just a kind of commentary on the macro at the moment. So high credit card debt, people pull in from their 401k. So on the surface, it looks like money's tight, but Cyber Monday was like one of the best Cyber Mondays we've had in a while. So how do you foot all that economic data?
Curious if that also factors in stuff like the buy now, pay it later stuff at firms or some other like off the books type of credit. Like we didn't have all this stuff before. Like you think 2008, I guess you might have had some kind of like buy now, pay later, not like now a firm and Klarna, and there's 20 million of these buy now, pay later things, and I'm curious how that all adds up to. We can't keep going in that direction and not have what will change that's going to allow these people to actually pay that debt off. Like wages feel like they're starting to, level out or come down. So if you're not going to get more wages, then what is the solution?
Right. Great question.
Take the equity out of your house if you can sell it, maybe? I don't know. But that's why I keep getting concerned about the debt. It's like, okay, the debt doesn't scare me in a sense of if you want to grow, you take on debt. The problem is it's servicing the debt. And not just service it, now I need extra to pay it down. Well, if wages aren't going to go up, where's the extra money going to come from to pay it down? Well, you're going to spend less. Well, then what's the effect on the economy then?
You're right.
So I'm not convinced that the pain's over. I'm not hoping for pain. And certainly, things have been going kind of sideways. And you can still get some pretty good growth numbers when things go sideways if you're doing proper business, right? My concern is we had that little bit of stuff with, a few banks failing and all that, but we probably need to see some kind of deflation at some point with the way prices are. That's not really hidden yet. I think if you Hell, pull up Google Trends sometime. Look at the word deflation. I feel like people have been talking about that more. But I'm not convinced things get better until we've had a quarter or two of real pain. And again, I'm not saying like massive economic crash, just some pain. Like maybe unemployment goes to like 4.5% or something. If they can orchestrate this soft landing where things just go sideways for another year or two, and then we start to slowly climb out of it, sounds good to me.
Well, did you put any stock in Sachs's theory around like a Q1 rate cut because of the election?
So I do not believe that all these people are operating independently. It seems like possibly the Fed is leaning towards one side, and I would not be surprised to see a Q1 cut to help a re-election bid. Like, I came to the time when I thought like people had integrity and and everything wasn't so politically motivated and driven. I realized that's all there is anymore. So does it happen? I don't know. Would I be shocked if one happens in Q1? They kind of like spur things. I wouldn't be surprised. Would you be?
No, I would not be. I would not be. It would also help with even the consumer side, wouldn't it?
I mean, the good news is, even if it is politically motivated, if we can get rates down a little bit, then those credit card payments are going to drop.
Housing might kick up again,
Housing might pick up again, and I don't know about you, but for the couple times I tried to buy a car in the last 2 years, there's not a lot of cars on the lot. Well, now the lots are full of cars.
Yeah.
Because hell, a pickup truck's costing you $70,000-$80,000, and then what? If you're your average Joe buying this thing, what is the interest rate? 7, 8, 9%? It's like, holy crap!
Right.
You can't afford to buy the F-150 anymore, and so political motivations aside, to see the rates go down, yeah, you think that would spur some kind of economic activity, right?
Yeah, and I guess for how long is this is the second question to that, right? How long would it last? When would it slow down again?
I think the biggest lesson here is we pumped in, was it $6, $7, $8 trillion? I don't know what the total is. We pumped in that much money, and inflation did suck, and some supply chains got stressed there for a minute. But relative to how much money it was, were things that bad?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like, it wasn't like Zimbabwe type inflation, right? Is that the one that's like they have like $1 trillion bills and stuff?
Right.
Yeah, we certainly had inflation, but was it even as bad as the 70s or early 80s?
I mean, I guess you don't want to say that too loud, right? Otherwise, we incentivize more money printing.
Okay, go back, edit that out of this episode. Take it out. But we've never done this before, so you're trying to figure it out in real time, and then we always go back and we study the economies of prior years, and like looking back now, it's like, okay, not surprised that inflation went up. It should have, but for the trillions we dumped in, was it that bad?
Right.
It was bad if you're probably on the bottom 40% of income earners when the inflation went up. But if you owned assets, my boat went up tremendously. my truck went up tremendously. My home went up. Like, if you owned assets, they went up really. It's there were winners and losers during that period of time, but it didn't get to the point to where a Big Mac was $50. Granted, a McDonald's combo still costs me $11 now, which I do think is like insane.
Like almost 50, yeah, it feels like it.
But it could have been a lot worse for pumping in $6, $7, $8 trillion.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting point.
We'll see. I mean, it seemed like inflation, we were able to stomp it out pretty quick, and I can't, because I think what happened is everyone just spent it all. Imagine all that money, like how busy the malls were, all the shopping, everyone's earnings were way up. Imagine if America would have took most of that money and paid down their debt and paid down their car, paid down their house, stash some money in the bank, and now the money's in the bank and they're getting 5% interest. Imagine what that economy would look like if we didn't just go blow it all.
Right.
Something that's, I wonder what the math would look like on that.
Interesting question.
No going back now. We spent it all.
True.
All right. Anything else to close this one out?
No, I think this was solid. It was a good episode.
What's the next chapter in the book we're going to do?
We're doing chapter 5?
Chapter 5, 4, 5. Did we publish 4 yet? I don't know if we even published 4
that'll
yet.
go out this week for sure. And chapter 5, let me pull it up really quick, is hiring the right ones and firing the questionable. So just more stuff about hiring.
Yeah, this sounds like, I mean, the first part of the book is culture, right? So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to when we get to like the operations and strategy. That was the fun stuff. So we'll struggle through the first part of the book, and then
hey now.
All right, I'll catch you on the next one.
Later. Okay.